Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and today I'm going to treat you to a VR to Anna Astral Tarot Lady and to Natalia Uroburos, who has done the VR to Anna. So Anna's video is the original one, and I'm going to link Natalia's as well. So Anna's hashtag is this shuffled tarot decks, and basically Anna asked us to show the most used, oldest, most loved decks in our collection that we actually have used for a long time. So I'm going to start with the first tarot deck that I have gotten in 1998. And this is the Consular Tarot. So some of you, there were a couple of different hashtags about it. And yeah, this was one of the first tarot decks that I ever used, and mostly in the beginning I was using the major arcana. This is still, this is the old school, so there is a couple of languages, but all my, the booklet was in German. I bought it in Cologne in 1998 or 1997, I can't even remember anymore. I used to live there as an au pair. I was always interested in esoteric things, and in Poland we didn't used to have many of those bookshops, and when I went to Germany, I was just mesmerized with all these amazing tarot decks out on the display. So I got, as you can see, it's very old, and this deck I used it quite a lot. Then I gave it to a friend. I don't think she used it much because she's not really so much into tarot. I thought maybe she would be if I gift her a deck. And then this deck returned to me, and it was missing a couple of cards, and one of my subscribers graciously has sent me 2 of the cards that the deck was missing, because she also had a deck that was incomplete but with many more cards. Thank you so much for this. So this first deck of mine is back in my possession. I rarely use it these days, but you can see that I was always interested in like religions, and I remember looking at this deck thinking, oh, this is so cool. It's got Christianity, it's got Islam, it's got Buddhism, it's got Hinduism. I was just like fascinated with all these different religions being put back into a tarot deck. So Consular Tarot, well loved, not so much used anymore, but very sentimental, and one of the oldest decks that I own, that I purchased myself, okay? Because yes, I've got some vintage decks that are from times before I was even born and walking the earth. So this Consular Tarot is definitely one of my precious possessions, and I love this deck. Another one that when I started, reading tarot, this was a deck that I was gifted from my sister. So this is Osho Zentaro, and this was actually one of the decks that I learned to read a little bit more intuitively, a little bit more aside from the book, even though I used to love the booklet for, for Osho Zen. It was a great companion book, and this is again a sentimental value because it's fairly old right now. You can see how many I edged it, of course, as well. I don't know why is this. I edged it and I put, I don't know, there's a card that's broken. It's one of my ex-boyfriends who got upset and just ripped the card in half. So it's got stories, this deck got stories. It's one of the oldest decks I have as well. I think I received it in 2001 or something like this. So it's we can call it vintage. Of course, this deck is sold all the time, and it's, again, I would say it's a spiritual deck, so not religious per se, but based on Osho's teachings, and one of his students just created this deck, so it's well loved worldwide. And I think this deck is actually really great, even though I might not, agree with everything that Osho taught, but a lot of his teachings are really pretty cool. So Osho Zen was another one that I really kind of started to have a love affair with tarot. And then I in 2014 I started to reading to read with tarot for people. And I remember that the Druidcraft Tarot was one of the decks that I used a lot. Also, I had my old Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, which I studied with and did workshops with, but I gave it to my friend right now, so I might get it back and maybe just give him another copy. But yeah, he's got this one for now. And the Druidcraft, I trimmed it twice. First, it was trimmed actually in this nicer setting with these green borders, and it also had the white borders. So this is trimmed twice, and then I edged it in pink. But you can see that this one was used heaps. So I read with it when I was learning to read for people, when I was doing like really, you know, either readings for exchange or for like a really small amount of money. I was doing email readings for years, and this deck was one of the decks that, yeah, I used to love reading with it. So it was quite expressive, and the faces were quite expressive. The art was done by Will Worthington. He's done quite a lot of the Celtic-based decks. And so the Druidcraft Tarot was, yeah, one of these decks that, yeah, you can see on the backs. It was used a lot. Right now, I'm not using it at all. Totally not my style anymore. But at some point, you know, this was one of those decks that I read with a lot. And then the next one was the Anna Kay Tarot, which also I used to read quite a lot, because I liked that it didn't have any esoterica added. I actually enjoyed that she created this deck based on Rider-Waite-Smith, but it was only purely based on the image and kind of like what the card was maybe revealing for the practical life. It's meant to do, you know, it's meant for doing the readings for just like regular day-to-day stuff. So I actually used to love reading with this deck as well. It came up at some point. It's not the original version that Anna Kay has for sale on her website. It's just this mass-produced deck. So that's Anna Kay Tarot. And moving on, I fell in love with Marseille. So one of my favorite tarot decks was Jean Dodal. I mean, I still love it. As I said, I was crazy about Marseille, okay? So I used to like tracing paper, and I used to trace those major arcana there. Was reading everything I could find. I studied with Enrique Enriquez. I studied with Camilla Elias, and it's just, yeah, I was like, I thought like I will never need any other decks. So this is a really, good paper. It's thick and stuff, so it might not look that used, but believe me when I say that I use this deck a lot, okay? And it's dirty, like the edges of it are dirty, and the cards from shuffling, I don't have any destroyed cards here. I used to really look after my decks, but yeah, it's traveled with me a lot. You can see on the Hermit from shuffling, it just got like, discolored. This is a deck that I used a lot, and I love this deck still. It's one of my faves, even though now I have like Artisan's Tarot, Jean Dodal, and it's in a way nicer because it shuffles better and it's smaller and it's not so heavy and so on. But this Jean Franois edition, it's one of those decks that I learned Marseille with, so it's just special to me. And another one was also his Jean Noblet. So the boxes are fairly beaten up, and the cards, in this case, I used Noblet a little bit less than Dodal, but yeah, it's also, you can see on the cards that it's been well loved, this deck. So Jean Dodal and Jean Noblet, really, so like these two copies from Franois were used a lot. And then there's a couple of other ones which I use quite often. This is made by Piotr from Tarot Tree. Tarotry.com. I will maybe link his, so his hand makes those decks. So this is major only So you can see like I use it often for where's the full heading readings, and I mix all these different ones. Then Jo from 282 Tarot, at some point she was sending out those hand-painted Tarot de Marseille copies, because she was working on her deck and she was trying out what paper to use and so on. So everything is handmade, like this is the backs, and in the fronts also, you know, she just hand painted everything, so it's quite amazing to even handle this. And yeah, I've used this deck quite a lot too, and you can see on the corners that they, you know, they have been used and loved. I also love that using this tiny little Tarot de Blaine, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. It's a tiny one and it's color based, and I really love it for this graphic colors. And yeah, because it's so tiny, it's a mini version. It's also I use it often for like major only readings or majors on majors and so on. Moving on. So we're more into the modern decks right now, and maybe fairly like a little bit newer than all of these that I showed you. So Dark Goddess Tarot is definitely one of the decks that I've used a lot. The booklet is amazing, I love it. And I edged it, so it used to be kind of gold, like it's not gold anymore, but this deck, it's also one of those decks that, you know, I've used and will be probably using a lot. So I know that now it's like mass produced, which is great, because this deck deserves the love. It's so wonderful, and the companion book is just amazing. I love what Ellen Lorenzi Prince did. So Dark Goddess Tarot, I don't know, I have had it for, I don't know, I bought it at some point in 2000 something, 17, 16, I'm not sure, but it definitely has a couple of good years of use in it. And her other deck that I got from a swap is the Dark Goddess Tarot, and I mean not the Dark Goddess Tarot, the Crone Tarot. And this one was used when I got it from a swap, so it's not all my doing, but I did get a fair use of this one. And at some point I tried to, like, maybe I thought I will edge it, but because the paper is so soft now from usage, and the way it was not laminated, you know, it started like really running over the card, so I kind of stopped myself and just left it as it is. But yeah, it still has the old backs and this soft paper, which is nice for like old decks. So yeah, it's a wonderful deck, and I love her decks. If you ever into like proper witchy decks, I don't know, these ones for me are witchy decks, like how I understand witchcraft, not some images with witches with pointed hats on them, but like true witchcraft, you know, like true empowerment, true grasping of, like not grasping, but like use of energy from within and putting it out there. So the next one to move on is the Marilyn Tarot. One of the, you know, I bought it also quite early on in my tarot journey. I trimmed this one and I added like the names on the bottom. I edged it. The edging is coming off as well, and the lamination holds off pretty well, so it's not, you know, doesn't look like that worn. But I used to use it quite a lot as well, and recently I'm not so much, but now and then I always reach for this one as well. It's a great deck, just deep. I love the artwork still. Maybe at some point it will age, you know, but it has some universal qualities in it, which I think it's like really great. So Mary L. Tarot, the first edition here. And I used to binge on Tarot on Transformation. So also I trimmed it and I edged it, and it bled a little bit, but also a deck that I used a lot for clients. I used a lot for like when I had my period of like connecting to angels. I had like an interesting experience with this particular deck. I think I have a video on it on my channel, so you can like dig my old videos from a couple of years back. if you want to, you know, listen about this. And this used to be one of those kind of hug me decks, you know, when I like needed a good hug. The book is quite psychological. It's one of those decks that maybe, again, I'm not using much right now, but now and then I will reach for it. Margaret Tarot, another one, like I love it. So you might not often see me like posting with this deck, and also I'm not actually reading much for clients with this deck. This is like my deck, so I edged it in all these different colors, and yeah, it has, you know, it's gotten some love, and you can see from shuffling, I'm also quite a, maybe not a vicious shuffler, but I love riffle shuffling, even though this one I can't riffle shuffle, it's too, like the paper is too hard, so I'm just giving it a regular shuffle. But this deck is amazing. I always call it like top shelf spirituality. The booklet is one of my favorite companion books ever written for tarot, and this is something that, like, you know, I just love and will never let go. Another one that's got a lot of use is the Oracle of Initiation, and this is deck created by Melissa Lucia, as you know, most of you will know, and it's an oracle deck, but I just love this deck. So depending on, the paper is again quite good, it's laminated, so it might not show up on the cards that I've used it a lot, but it shows up on the book for sure, and it shows up on the backs of the cards because they're darker. And I have a couple of editions of this deck as well, so sometimes I reach for the smaller one. Recently Melissa printed the newer version. This is still the old postcardy kind of version, but this deck is like my soul deck. I really love it. It's deep, it goes deep, and yeah, it's an important deck for me, as is Mysteries of Mary Tarot, and this is the first one I got. I also have the gilded version, but you can see that this one is well used, and this is again also rarely do I use it for clients. Sometimes I do if I feel like I'm inclined, but mostly I just, you know, use it for myself. This is my go-to deck when for my connection to Mary, for researching I wanted to say spiritual roots of Christianity, but what I mean is the mystical roots of spirituality, of Christianity, and just interesting connection of like goddess lineage and Mary as this kind of carrier of a deeper and longer and more powerful connection of the feminine, sacred feminine through ages. So this is a wonderful deck by Hetty, and I also have the Black Madonna Tarot, which is as well used, but for the purpose of this video I'm just showing my older decks and something that I've actually used for longer time. One of my Natalia shared her Toph stories, how Toph just comes to her. For me, I shared it numerous times. I always received Toph decks. So the first Toph deck this I received was this 98.6 small version of Toph, which then I sent away to someone when I was doing wands. Sometimes I was sending people gifts, so to one of this regular customer of mine I sent her this deck because I thought, like, you know, I won't use it, I don't know, I was just sending off things, like a little bit like Natalia as well. Sometimes I'm just like, oh fuck this, go, and then I'm like, oh, so then I ask her, can I have it back, do you use it? And she's like, actually I'm not using this one, but can I keep the other one? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm just really want this one back. So she said like, yeah, no problem, and she sent it back, but it was missing cards, so I just let it go. I only kept the majors, because majors are, that's the version when they have 3 Magi or Magus cards. So this one was a gift from my friend in Australia, Matt, and he bought it for me with the book of Toph by Crowley, and it was just this old wiser edition, which is great. And then I received this amazing gift from Natalia. I don't know, I wouldn't have this deck probably if not for her, so I totally treasure it. It's amazing. I use it. I'm kind of similar to Natalia in this case, and to Anna actually, that we both, like all of us, love to use decks. Like I love the used version. I also, like Natalia, smearing it with oils and shit, you know. So yeah, it's a special deck because of this, that it's from Nat, and I love the paper and just the feel of it. So this came as a gift as well. And then my friend, like, I bought this and it was missing cards, and I couldn't find replacement cards, so I just forgot about it. And my friend Victoria sent it to me for a birthday. So this is the version, the Greeny, which I also love. It's cool. I kind of like this fucked up green, you know, and it feels good. It's true what Natalia also said, that it has more of this like plasticky feel and laminated feel, but I still really love it. And right now I'm more in the greeny phase for usage. And I also received this one, just the regular, you know, US Games. I think it was Greenbox, the large deck. This is from my husband. So this is when we met. I went to visit him in London, and that was 2010 maybe. So it's already nearly vintage. I use this deck quite a lot. I actually trimmed it as well. I haven't etched it yet. And yeah, it's obviously a special one for me, so I only trimmed it on the sides. Quite enjoy it actually. And yeah, I studied with this deck. I've done like tarot workshops with this particular one, and for a long time this was the only one I had after I sent this one away. And there's 4 more decks left. So Tarot of the Wild Unknown, it was one of the first kind of unusual tarot decks that I've gotten after I studied with Rider-Waite-Smith. I think Mary L and Tarot of the Wild Unknown was the deck that I've gotten as like, wow, look at this, you know. So it's quite dirty now. It's got, you know, used edges. I used to use this deck a lot for readings for myself. I still love the artwork. I used to love that lines, how the cards look together. It's an amazing deck still, and this is really something to say for Kim Krans. Like, her decks are quite ageless and quite amazing. So now I know she's coming up with a new one. I'm definitely going to get it. I love her archetypes. I love her animals deck. Just love her work, really great. And then there is Sasurai Beto Tarot. This one is full of surprises. It looks like shit, just it's beaten up, but it's not maybe so much from using. I mean, I did use it a lot because I used to love it for readings. It's a great reader actually. But when I took it to Australia, I lost my bag and it fell into like side of the road where the water was in, and this deck got soaked, and it's got just Australian vibe to me now. So yeah, it's fairly bashed up, but I love it. I love it. So this is one of those. This is, I think, the first edition of Sasurai Beto, and I love this deck. It's a cool one, and it reminds me of Australia, so it carries special vibes for me. There's one more Rider-Waite-Smith, which I actually really loved also. It's a crazy one with those oil paintings and these crazies, you know, like crazy makeups and shit. Like, especially Empress, I think, has like really bad makeup. If I can find it, I show you. But yeah, in general, the facial expressions are funny. They like all a little bit crazy, but this deck is fun, and it's called the Golden Rider, and I've got the French edition, but there was an English edition too, and yeah, again, as you can see, I used it. I did. And the last one that I'm going to share, 23 minutes, that's time to go, right, is Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle by Linda Spaman. I can't remember her surname because somebody told me that Spaman or Spaman, it's like the true fortune teller in Swedish. But I'm not sure if this is her surname, probably not. But yeah, for a new deck, this is well used, and I use it a lot for readings and for myself. And this is top based, and it's a great funky deck for anything. Like mostly, like if you don't like tarot, you can use it as an oracle. If you like tarot, you can use it as like top deck and like draw more symbolism from it if you know the cards. So it's an excellent deck, and I really enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun to mix with other decks as well. And that's it. So that's it. That's my disheveled, well-loved, historical now, nearly historical decks that I truly enjoy. And I'd love to see more VRs for this hashtag. So please share your reviews, share your disheveled decks, most loved, most used, oldest, in a sense, not of the age but of usage, and how long have you been playing with them. I love to see more. Thanks Anna for the inspiration. Thanks Natalia for the inspiration. Thank you for watching. See you soon.